Mmm, coffee. At night, it's always good for the soul. This is COFOH Live Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined by the amazing James Sabata of the Necronomicon.
You write something on my face.
James, how are you, sir?
Doing well. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too shabby. Things are starting to warm up here in Colorado. How about you?
I'm in Phoenix and it snowed on the mountains, like just where I could see it. And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't need that. and yeah, so it was, I think it was 39 this morning. And I talked to my son who lives in Fargo, North Dakota. And he was like, no, you don't get to call it cold. So I'm fine.
Oh, nice. Wow. Yeah. I think the West Coast, got a few inches of snow. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally we're getting it, and certainly Fargo usually gets it a lot.
Oh, yeah. One time he called me, and it was colder in Fargo than it was on Mars. And I was like, I don't really have anything to compare that, but that sounds crazy, so I'll buy it.
Yeah, is that like negative 70 degrees or negative 75?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was something crazy. Yeah.
Man, that's insane. Yeah, back in December we had like a wind chill of negative 50 in some areas in Colorado. And
oh my.
Yeah, I think I was out there for like about 5 seconds. That was 5 seconds too long.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Nebraska, and then, I moved here to get away from snow. So
yeah,
I don't miss it.
James, it's following you. It has found you.
It sounds like it's attacking everybody. So
yeah, it's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, when you got LA under blizzard warning.
So weird.
Yeah, so weird. So, James, hey, it's great to have you on. It's great to meet you. You and your partners have this amazing podcast reviewing movies, and you guys are all writers. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and how you got into writing and podcasting.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a horror author, screenwriter, editor, podcaster, just everything. Just still making absolutely no money, so that's working out great. And staying true to my roots.
Yeah.
And then I'm also the founder and director of Spirited Giving, which is a pop-up horror themed fundraiser. In May of last year, we did it at the Stanley Hotel, and we raised almost $10,000 for a local volunteer fire department. Cool. So yeah, that's cool. And then this year it will be in Louisville, Kentucky, which I've inevitably said wrong, because if you don't live there, you can't say it correctly. And that'll be October 19th. We'll have some horror authors doing readings and some other great stuff, and raising some cash for local libraries.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. As far as how I got into writing, I really don't remember. Like, as far back as I can remember, I was that kid in the neighborhood that like forced my friends to put on plays, and like all I wanted to do was make movies and comic books and stuff. I still haven't made a comic book, but I've made short films and been hired to write a feature and released, 4 or 5 books. I don't keep track. They're just like children to me. Just they're out now. No, I'm kidding.
Go out to the road. Play.
Right. Get out of here.
That's the
No,
safest thing. You're resilient.
But yeah, so I really don't remember. But as far as like professionally, one day I gave a short story to a friend and they were like, hey, you got to publish this. And I thought that was nuts, and then it got published. It's still one of my favorites. It's called Gossip Hounds of Sherrytown.
Nice.
It's about a mortician whose family dies, and he basically kills another family to take their place in the graves so that the town won't question it. But which makes no sense because who's digging up these graves? But yeah, so that was my first, and then it just kind of kept going.
Cool.
I mostly self-publish my own stuff because I'm very impatient and can't wait 1.5 to 5 years to get it on the shelf. But
that's cool. Well, doing self-publishing too, like you're marketing, you're doing all that. Is it like on Amazon, or how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, they're all on Amazon. That's usually where I start just because the process is easy. And also I just really like buying rich people rockets. So whatever I can do to help with that, but yeah.
Well, William Shatner needs to go someplace, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So then there's other sites like Lulu or Ingram Spark, and when you self-publish there, it can go in Barnes and Noble or libraries or different stuff like that as well. So yeah, they're all over.
That's cool. Unlike Lulu, going through the library, does that still have to go through like some kind of juried or board process, with getting in libraries, or is that just do you have to even deal with that?
I'm actually not sure how that part works. If it does, they deal with all of it. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but
easy peasy for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key,
Yeah. Yeah. That's whatever makes it easier. Yeah, and who gives a shit about putting more money in some rich man's cock rocket to get to the moon, right?
Well, I keep thinking like one of these rockets has to go wrong, right? So then Oh wait, did I say that? What I meant was no, so
no, please don't. Right.
But yeah, I don't know. And then podcasting, we started doing cons, and we always have a huge turnout at our panels.
Right.
We do some educational ones, like we do horror as social commentary, which will bring me back to the podcast in a second.
Yeah.
But we do like really fun audience interactive panels, like we did Kill, Marry, Shag Universal Monsters. So like we give you Frankenstein and you have to say why you would marry him, kill him, or fuck the hell out of him,
Right.
And we used to give you like the 3 choices, like the way you play the game, and that went pretty well. But then one day we realized that if we just gave you one choice and then let the audience come to the microphone and defend their reason, then we just became judges, and it was way funnier and really crazy.
Yeah.
And so these panels that we do, they're just always full. And that's not to just be cocky. It's such a power rush. It's like, oh, people care what we say. And my podcast partner, Donald Guillory, and I, we were doing like advanced screenings of movies, and we would literally just go to Dave and Buster's afterwards and talk about the movie and talk about the social commentary. And one day we were like, why are we not recording this and making millions of dollars? And we got half of that right. We record. We do not have the millions of dollars, but we did just pass 1 million downloads, and that's pretty good too. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I caught that episode today, as I mentioned before we went live.
Yeah.
And then the episode where you guys were reviewing Nope, and talking about the social commentary on that. The panel sounds absolutely awesome. I know Brett just chimed in, speaking of which, and he's just like, hi James, maybe a panel or a live podcast or something at COFOH this year. So that might be something that we
can make that happen.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, because what you just described, that would be hilarious. And nothing's more fun than passing judgment over your audience.
Yeah, and it's also just, I'm really starting to lean into like audience participation panels. I was doing like 15 cons a year before the pandemic.
Wow.
And even if you don't do as many as me, everybody knows you kind of get sick of just sitting there listening to people. It's one thing if it's Jeff Goldblum and he's telling Jeff Goldblum stories.
Right.
It's another if it's me telling you why a movie's good. That gets
Right.
boring. And so I've just become a real fan of incorporating the audience as much as possible because it's a better energy. Everybody has a great time. And I don't know, man, I'm having so much more fun at cons doing that than when we were just,
Yeah. Yeah, when we do our shows, we're all about like, the creative activation and the audience, getting involved as much as possible, kind of, putting them at the center. It's like, yeah, we've got our celebrity guests and they're amazing, but
Mhm.
if we can get like creative projects going with our guests and the audience and
Oh, yeah.
make something, even if
Yes.
it's like a moment in time or some type of encapsulated project, all the more better. And I think everybody leaves a little bit feeling more fulfilled and hopefully making new friends, right?
Definitely. And like, we just want audience members to talk about the great time they had versus what'd you do all day? I sat in a chair and listened to people, which is
Right.
okay,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. For me, I'm more like Mr. Hop in there, participate,
Yep.
and and yeah, that's yeah. For me, that's so much more fun. I figured, it's probably the same for a lot of people.
I would think so. Yeah. Yeah. Another one we do is horror authors against humanity, which is cards
Ooh,
against humanity,
great.
except we make the cards. So they're somehow even worse than what you get from cards against humanity. And then all horror themed,
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. With that, can you give us like an example of like a card that somebody would pull that's
Sure.
worse?
Yeah, sure. So
Uh,
we have some safe ones that are funny, but they're still like just kind of there to even things out. So like one of the answers might be the black guy who dies first, right?
yeah.
Just that slight offensiveness. But then we have like using Chucky as a fleshlight, you know. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Or
Okay.
the single most offensive card I've seen played when we do this was it was herpes that now identifies as them peas. And the room went silent for like 3 seconds and then they busted up laughing. And I was
Right.
like, I
Ooh,
think that's the exact reaction you were going for.
right.
But
Right.
and the guy
Uh,
who made the card and played it just sat there just straight face staring at the audience and it was amazing.
damn.
So yeah,
Damn. That's intense.
just crazy stuff like that. And that was in Salt Lake, Utah.
Oh,
So yeah.
nice. Nice.
who are
Oh,
who are amazingly huge horror fans. We didn't know that the first time we went.
yeah.
And they're so knowledgeable and cool and I don't know. It's just not what I expected. It was awesome.
Yeah. I kind of, yeah, we kind of realized that too about like Utah in general. I
Mhm.
think, you're religiously Mormon controlled. You're going to have that, that massive population that's really into subcultures.
Yep.
As a response. I think it's just a natural thing. It's like going into like something like the Bible Belt or the Deep South, where you've got just these massive religious controlling factions, and
Mhm.
of course, the number, those are the areas that have the number one porn downloads.
Yep.
It's like, duh, you're going to repress stuff. People are going to, do the opposite.
Yep. And we're always going to just be drawn to whatever we're told we're not supposed to do.
That's
That's
right.
just human nature. So
That's right. That's why I still pee on my neighbor's bush. I will fucking kill that thing someday.
I actually did a panel where I tried to convince people that Jason Voorhees is just the angel of death enforcing the commandments. So so that was fun.
I'm sure you'd have a church group get behind that. That sounds reasonable. I think that you tell them that stuff, it's like, what? Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, it's also the Temptation of Christ Part 2. Like, great. It's a snuff film. I love
You'll
it.
love this part. He rises from the dead.
Yeah,
But
yeah. This time he's got a hockey mask. He skates.
But yeah, man, it's been crazy. It's just so much fun. Like cons are cool anyway,
Yeah.
just because you're with people that like the stuff you like or like similar stuff, or people are just so excited to be there. I love the positivity of cons, not so much the comments online before and after, but the actual in person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So, yeah.
go to the horror conventions. Like, the people in person, right,
Mhm.
are so much more endearing and engaging, and they're fans. They want to have a good time, but
Yep.
they're also incredibly supportive and
Yes.
so open minded and so open to. I don't get that same sensation when I go to a Comic Con, and
Yeah.
so many of my listeners and YouTube watchers, I guess, have heard me kind of chime in about this. It's like the Comic Cons, it's hot or cold, and it doesn't matter the size of the convention. You can go to a small one and
Yeah.
it's going to be cold, and then you can go to like out here Denver Comic Con, or I guess it's called Fan Expo now.
Yep.
It's pretty lukewarm. And it's loud and obnoxious, and it's like, man, if I wanted to do that, I just go to San Diego Comic Con because it's just loud and it's bright colors, coming
Oh
at you
yeah.
trying to kill you anyway. But the horror shows are just so much sweeter, more endearing. People come
Oh
up
yeah.
to the table, like, yeah, if you're a writer and a novelist, they're like, "What are you doing? Tell me all about it. I'm interested." And it's yeah, not all of them are gonna buy your thing, but they want to hear about it.
Well, and I feel like even the guests, and I went to a casino with Tony Todd, who played
Yes.
Candyman, so like, I've spent a lot of time around guests,
Yeah.
and like Kane Hodder, people like that, like they'll just chill at the bar
Right.
and just hang out with you, and you can just
Yep.
walk up and talk to them. And I go to major cons, and I get it. Like you're an A-list celebrity, you're not just going to hang out with whoever, but
Right.
it's just such a different vibe that you don't get anywhere that's not a pure horror con. It's like
Right.
it feels like everybody that's been in horror movies like legitimately is so thankful and full of gratitude that people keep watching their stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and they're so cool about giving back, whether it's like our fundraiser, like Kane Hodder donated a signed machete last year, so
Cool.
whether it's something like that or just taking the time to thank people for watching, I don't know, Children of the Corn 10, whichever one
Yeah.
that was. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know, it's just a totally different vibe, like you said. So,
Right. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, yeah. A lot of the celebrities, even like celebrity writers, the comic book creators, you name it. Every facet of that, it just seems like so much more approachable.
mhm.
And like even like with like horror board games and role playing
Oh
games
yeah.
and video games. Again, same thing. It's just I think it's something about the genre. I also find that the genre itself is just so accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Even the layperson, and it's always an entry point for anything pop culture related, um,
Mhm.
and a great conversation starter, great icebreaker. But it's yeah, I think it's funny that it's still, even as accessible as everything is, still like that kind of looked down upon medium. Yet 20 years from now, you're going to be talking about this horror movie that was made this year that came out next month versus the Oscar darling that swept up all the awards,
Yep.
went to Sundance, went to Cannes. you know yeah, that was an amazing film, but nobody talks about it now.
Yep. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I look at the films people talk about from the 80s or things like that, and you can't tell me anybody set out going, Chopping Mall will forever be tied into,
Right.
no, nobody was thinking that. They just made a movie,
Yeah,
and here we are, I don't know, 40 years later, something. And
still chatting about
I
it.
still see people, like, I see people in the wild who are wearing a Chopping Mall shirt, and it's like,
Oh,
that's
nice.
so weird, like I
Yeah.
love it, but I
Yeah.
don't see that with anything else. Nobody's wearing a Shawshank Redemption shirt, even though it's my favorite movie of all time. So,
Yeah. Well, I did yesterday. You missed
well,
it.
damn it. Yeah.
Sorry.
See? And I was originally scheduled for yesterday. Damn it, I was so close.
I know. If you were only here, you would have seen Tim Robbins all over my chest.
busting out like the alien, but then both arms in the air.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, that's a little Jacob's laddering, happening on my tummy. That sounds awful. Yeah.
I have that effect on people.
Oh, good. That's good. You might have the effect, but I am the result.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, James, with the podcast, you guys are, you met up, I think, over, doing horror conventions, and you and your partners, live in Arizona and Mississippi. What was the convention that you guys ultimately met up on?
Yeah, so my podcast partner Don,
Yeah.
he used to live here in Phoenix, so we were at Phoenix Comic-Con. It was at the time.
Okay.
Then it became like Comic Fest, and now it's Fan Fusion, I think. I don't know. I feel like every couple of years the name changes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were here, and I was working in guest relations at the time, so like taking care of celebrities and stuff like that. And we were doing a crossover event with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And so we had some cosplayers come in and meet kids at the event or things like that. And then in exchange, they gave us a nice suite up top with unlimited food. So I don't know if there was a game or not, but no, missed the whole game. I was just very busy eating nachos.
But that is the neighborly thing to do.
But yeah, so that's just where we hit it off and started hanging out a little bit, but not a ton. And then we did another event where it was like laser tag and bowling and something else, basically for kids to get them interested in Phoenix Fan Fusion, Comic-Con, whatever it was at the time. Yeah. And we were playing laser tag and both being shot by this group of kids. So we started teaming up, and then I guess we just stayed a team after that. So
nice.
We went to war together now.
Yeah, that's where people bond the most. They also get PTSD, unfortunately, but yeah, no, that's cool. Was that after a couple of scenarios like that? Was that when you guys were like, hey, we should do a podcast where we're interesting talkers that talk about film and write a lot?
No, I mean, it was probably a good 7 years later, something like that. And we just started doing panels at cons, and people kept going, oh, I wish you could do this more. Like, can you go to this con or this con? Like, cause there's all these little cons around Phoenix. Right. And then we were just like, we should do a podcast. And I totally thought it would fail. So I only agreed to do 13 episodes. And I think now we're at 220, something like that.
Hats off to you. That's a way to stick with it. Cause that kind of relationship and that kind of dedications, that can be tough to come by.
Well, and I feel like, so 35 of those episodes are the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. And we decided, oh, hey, they're on their 31st one. We should do 31 days of these. And oh my God, if anything was going to break up podcasting partners or friends, don't do something for 31 days straight together. Because,
oh my God,
especially when it's not good. Like the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, when you look back at it at my age, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 45. And we look back on these glorious, few seasons, Yeah. And then we thought that kept going for 31 years, but no, it did not. And so these Treehouse episodes got really, really just boring and terrible, and we had nothing to talk about. And I think we were on the verge of all killing each other. And then they suddenly got good again, and we were like, oh, okay, things are fine. And then we kept going. But I feel like that's the kind of thing that could break up a podcasting group. So
I have a feeling Simpsons in general could probably, break up. They're at times, they're kind of the Yoko Ono of popular television. But as far as like Simpsons goes, like come episode 7 after that, I kind of just tuned out. It's just storylines just kind of started repeating themselves. And I mean, it's not just the Simpsons, but you get that with like certainly Family Guy. Like
Oh yeah.
after the first season, after they finally got renewed, you know, I was bored again. You know, it's just like,
Yep.
you know. Then I went to Family or American Dad for 2 seasons. It's like, oh yeah, it's the same creator. Why did I expect anything new? But
And even Futurama kind of does that. It's good for a while, and then it hits this really boring part, and then there's some good stuff. But it's
I
weird.
think they've to me they've got a little bit better shelf life, and I think they just got renewed yet again
Oh wow.
for I don't know if it's another run on Hulu or another platform. I don't know. I'll probably watch a few episodes and then fade out because my ADD is just too bad.
Yep. I know
Yeah,
that feeling.
yeah. But so LS Strange just said also South Park.
Oh yeah.
I think South Park is the exception for me. Even when it's bad, it's still good for me. That's one I have no problem beating myself up over. And like there was the presidential season where it was the 2016 election or whatever, and God, that was such a terrible season. But I stuck through it, and it still had its rewards. But
I have this theory with South Park
yeah,
that like because of the way they make animation versus everyone else, they
right,
can stay topical.
yeah,
And the jokes aren't from a year and a half ago,
right,
or with the Simpsons, they're not from 10 years ago.
yep.
But yeah, so it feels better, and I feel like it doesn't wear off as quickly at all.
No, it's yeah. They're able to keep it pretty fresh. I mean, hell, if you can knock out a whole episode in a week, good God.
It's
But
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, I'd imagine they have incredibly high turnover, because of that. I guess it's I hate to say this, but I guess that's fine because the quality of the show I think is a little bit higher than because they're topical. But
Yep.
anyway, um, yeah, before we went live, we were talking about
Mhm.
your love of the Pablo Escobar
Oh
and
yeah.
the
We're gonna
whole
answer Brett's question here. Yeah.
yeah. Let me bring that up. So, well, Brett set this up pretty nicely. Wow. What's crazy is I watched Shawshank last night for the first time. Yes, it was outstanding. What's your newest fave? Spell that out, Brett. Come on, favorite. When I say
Proper
favorite,
grammar.
I sound stupid. And I got to read these out loud because anyway, it helps with my literacy. But yeah, we were talking about obviously Pablo Escobar, and hopefully that sets it up for the audience a little bit.
Oh yeah, man. Like, w- I- the best way I can explain this is I love campy.
Yeah,
I love utterly insane kills. I love creature features.
yes,
And I any of my books, if you look at them, they come down to ridiculous premise with deeper thought, right? And I don't know that Cocaine Bear delivers on the deeper thought part, but that's just where I am. That's what I'm looking for. So
right,
when you give me a bear on cocaine randomly killing people, I'm in. And I don't think this ruins the movie in any way, but it just goes after people that like have coke on them, like if somebody handled the package and it sprays them, right? So like
right.
it even made sense for a creature feature, which is unheard of. And but it's such a ball of laughs. I was dying at everything.
Nice.
uh I don't think I stopped laughing the whole movie, even when no one else in the theater was laughing. So Cocaine Bear is definitely my favorite of the newest films I've seen.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. Um, yeah, with that, you mentioned you like campy films and stuff like horror comedies, that sort of thing. Past that, like obviously that's on everybody's zeitgeist because that's the new thing that came out. But when it comes to like kind of comfort campy movies, what's your go-to?
It depends on the season. Anna and the Apocalypse is one of my absolute go-tos. It's a Christmas zombie musical.
Yeah.
And so right there, just what the hell were they thinking?
Right.
And then it's amazing. And I would argue that they put more work into the songs that they sing than most musicals I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They're so perfect and just not what I expected going into a musical horror movie at all.
Right.
I was expecting Trauma. Nothing against Trauma. I love Trauma. Poultrygeist is one of my favorite movies ever, which I was about to say as well.
Yes.
I can't eat chicken without looking at my wife and going, I know it's bad for me, but I love the skin. And after, like 12 years or something, she just hates me so much for that kind of stuff. So but yeah, so those two are definitely my go-tos.
Nice.
If I'm going for just like a slasher kind of feel,
Mhm.
this will get me killed, but the Friday the 13th reboot I love because it's like watching 4 movies at once because they took all these pieces from them.
Nice.
And I just really like the kills in it. There's a lot of it that doesn't make sense, but
It's almost like the greatest hits.
yeah, kinda. And then when we did the episode on our podcast, we talked about how the movie's really just Jason protecting his weed. He has it's this giant marijuana farm, and Jason's out there. So I figure this must be how Jason gets money.
Yeah.
This is what's important to him. They came, they messed with the weed, he killed them all. So that's
Yep.
just fun in itself.
Well, and it came out, just before it started becoming legal in places like Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then God, the other that I could watch, I don't even know how many times I've seen them. I'm a huge Saw fanatic.
Ooh, okay.
I don't claim Saw 3D as part of anything, but outside of that, I'm a huge fan, and I think it's one of the few places where, when sequels come out, how
Yeah.
they don't care. They just want to make sequels and make money. And
Yeah.
for some reason, the Saw writers tried to make the overall story make sense, like to its detriment. Like it's so
Yeah.
heavy and so twisted, none of it could work, But like 6 movies in, they're still like trying to pull something from movie 1 and be like, that's why that happened.
Oh,
And so that's just
no.
fascinating to me from a writing point of view. Like, why are you putting this much work into it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to say that I've never really been a Saw fan. I always liked the premise of the first one that James Wan did, and
Yeah.
I just thought the execution was just like, oh my god, I can see Carrie Elway's cut off hand sticking through the sleeve. It's like you can see the knuckle imprint. It's like, come on, guys. Like I get that you had a small budget and you have to use probably like the first take, but couldn't you have gotten a second take? So
Yes, I always wonder about that. I don't know.
yeah, it was like I guess all the money went into the named actors as opposed to the approach. But yeah, oh well. I digress. Yeah, you mentioned too that with your books coming out, you're working off camera. You were mentioning that you're currently editing a collection of short stories,
Yeah.
all written by you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what we can expect?
Yeah. So this is 13 short stories that have literally nothing to do with each other. One of them I'm not even sure is horror adjacent, let alone horror.
Oh.
They're just like the stories that I've written that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though there's no like comprehensive anything to it, I really wanted to put them out. And also I wanted something at con because it's really hard. Like people are like, oh, what have you written? And you tell them about a short story or whatever. And I don't have it with me. I can't print it out for you here,
Yeah.
So it was like an easy way to put it all together. And so I'm calling it random shit from the bowels of my brain because, nothing comes together. It all just pushed out wherever it wanted. So there you go.
The random shit that came out from my brain. That's
Yep.
great. Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds awesome. Yeah, another way of James Sabata presents the random shit.
Pretty much.
That's that should be pretty off, pretty awesome. When can people expect to pick that up from you?
I'm hoping to have it out in July.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure we'll make that, but probably
Yeah.
July or August.
Nice. Yeah. Earlier, you were showcasing or trying to showcase your cover for Fat Camp. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah, so Fat Camp came out in 2018. It was my first novel.
Sweet.
Um, it's basically a fit camp for overweight teenage boys and a crazed maniac going around slaughtering them all. On the one hand, it's exactly what I was talking about earlier. It's a ridiculous setting with a way deeper story, and it's a lot about grief and just everything you carry with you, your emotional baggage on top of lack of confidence or whatever else. And so yeah, it's in a fit camp for overweight teenage boys, but it's a lot about grief and that kind of stuff. But then the other side of that is it's also just straight 80s B movies that I loved. So like we still do like running boob jiggle scenes. They're just very different because they're boys. Group shower scenes don't have the same appeal apparently,
Right.
but so, so yeah, it's crazy. There's some decent kills, So
Yeah. That sounds pretty interesting that you were able to interject or insert like some of those like 80s horror tropes.
oh yeah. Yeah, like there's like one part like there's I counted once because my screenplay manager made me count, and I think there were 87 references to other horror films, but a lot of them are just like quick little tiny things,
Yeah.
like somebody asks this main character which cabin he lives in, and he says it's the last cabin on the left. Just like these like little quick one-liners. Then
Right.
there's like a scene where one of the characters just lists like every motivation that anyone ever had in B movie history. And it's so ridiculous because somebody's like, why is the killer doing this? And he's like, oh, well, here's some possible reasons. And then he's like, his mom was in a psych hospital and the nurse did something, like just these horrible things that we just loved growing up. And so I threw them in just to be ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. That I think that's the beauty of just writing, being able to create your own stuff. You throw in the stuff that you love and the stuff that you also haven't seen.
Mhm.
I can't think of I can't think of a horror movie that has occurred at a fat camp, but it seems like an obvious choice.
It kind of does. Yeah. I thought it was weird. I've heard of one other person that was working on a story like it, but never finished it. So
Hmm.
I think I want to say there's a short story, but it's more like real grief and real trauma, and
Right.
it's a woman like dealing with having to be there and her feelings and that kind of stuff. And I really wanted to walk the line more of just how I was growing up because I was overweight and I was picked on all the time. And
Yeah.
you develop that I'll make fun of myself, or you just learn to live with it, or you also realize that momentum is important, and when a big guy runs into you it hurts. So
Yeah.
so just using all of that and then kind of making fun of it and kind of, I don't know,
Right.
just wanting to
Right.
sucker people in to where they thought it was ridiculous and easy, and then they had to deal with the grief stuff instead. You
Yeah.
know?
With writing a book like that and dealing with grief, did you as the writer kind of find it also like therapeutic for yourself?
Oh yeah. My buddy Vincent Vanacava is a writer, and he's so sick of hearing me say this, but
Yeah.
everything I write is therapy.
Okay.
I'm not a person that can just crank out a book to have a new book this week. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who even releases something every year because everything I write is therapy on some level for me.
Okay.
Fat Camp is probably the biggest because I was overweight growing up. I was picked on, and he's dealing with the death of his father. And my dad died when I was 23. So I'm like 5 years older than the main character, but it's all very intertwined, and it really helped me a lot.
Nice.
Another one of my books, the most recent release, is called Who Dunner, and it is a raunchy murder mystery where the main character, it's a college, and the
Yeah.
main character hooks up with like the most promiscuous woman on campus.
Okay.
And soon after that, she's dead. So he thinks he's going to be a suspect, and he
Mm.
sets out to solve the case. When in reality, she slept with everyone in town, and everyone wanted to kill her. So he's not on the radar at all, right? But I took some swings at my ex-girlfriend in it, and I'm talking like my last girlfriend before I met my wife, right?
Yeah.
So I always call them like the last wrong one. Maybe
Okay.
I'll use that as a title one day. I don't
Yeah.
know, but I feel like everybody has the last wrong one when they're in a relationship, but whether that lasts or not, and they become the last wrong one. But
Right. There's always this,
and
right?
and it was weird, like before writing this book, I thought about my ex a lot, or I thought about like just different fights we had, or just different stupid shit, right? And I wrote the book, and it was like she was just exercised from my life, like.
Oh, okay.
And it's not her, it's just like these little, they're literally shots no one else would understand, and I don't know, it's just weird how that works, how just it's like
Yeah.
you put it somewhere else, and
Yeah.
I think
It's
that's kind of my therapy with my books. Yeah.
it's amazing the kind of things that we hang on to, and we um you know we we project on to other people, and yeah, they were probably there during that, and yeah, they probably caused it, but then we just gotta realize, hey, at some point we gotta let this negativity go. We gotta, it's just it's bad energy to have around. So yeah, I guess that plays more into the therapy of writing, and going through that process and reliving it, and then hopefully it you know it opens up a new perspective, for you, not only as a writer but a human being. I know writing can be kind of therapeutic for me too. Um, but when it's writing comics, it's pretty easy. Okay, this happens, draw that, and then the dialogue and stuff. And it's like, okay, next page. That's usually the extent of it. Very deep shit. Very deep shit.
It all works on some level.
Yeah, there's no depth to my shallowness. Oh man. But so you've got Fat Camp, and then you've got Who Dunner.
Hmm.
Which one of those is going to be made into the movie first?
Probably Fat Camp.
Nice. I was going to say, yeah. I mean, of course, we just touched up on that. It's like, this sounds like this should be a film.
I agree. Pay me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well,
I've been talking to a producer for a couple of years. COVID heavily interfered, and I know he doesn't mind me saying this because they're actively looking for people to help fund the movie.
cool.
So Fat Camps definitely would be a way higher chance of being made.
That's awesome. Did you by chance write the screenplay? I know
did.
You got some background in that.
Yeah, I did. I changed the kills because in the book it was more realistic level. It was like cutting throats and stabbing people and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the film, I wanted to go for iconic, insane deaths. So like one of them, there's a kid that purges, right? And so the killer grabs him and puts a toilet snake down his throat, and then begins to twist. And so yeah, I want it made just for that scene. Like, even if that's just the scene we make to show people to get funding, like I just want to see that scene.
Yeah. I'm picturing it in my head, and I'm thinking it's like, well, clog, taken care of, and now and then dump water down through them. Oh God. Yeah,
Yep.
I've got a vivid imagination on that one. It's like, is your killer by chance just a plumber? In this?
He's not, but
Yeah. If he
You
is,
know,
don't say anything. I don't want you to
oh
give me.
no, I would never say enough to spoil it, but it's funny
Right.
because the killer always wears a sweatshirt with cut off sleeves.
Oh, okay.
And that's because I was a New York Jets fan and I wanted Bill Belichick to be the terrible person that he is. And so I modeled the killer after the New England Patriots coach.
That's great. That's awesome.
The
Well,
identity doesn't match up. Just that
yeah.
little, you know.
I think in real life, most coaches are probably secretly serial killers. They're certainly sociopaths. It's like it's
Exactly.
just a couple steps and a few, dead animals away from, going full serial killer. It's like, oh, geez, wow, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, you mentioned too, like before we went live, that you had produced some short films. Can you tell us about those experiences?
Yeah. So I wrote the films and then they were bought by the
Oh, okay,
production companies that made them.
cool,
Um, so I don't know if they still do it, but Mall of America used to have a horror film fest every year around Halloween.
great.
And the production company that wanted to make it was in Minneapolis. And he found one of my short stories in Uncle John's bathroom reader. They had like a fiction thing. So I entered
Right.
and they published one of my stories. And he found that and he wanted to make it into a film.
Cool.
And every time he went to film it, something terrible would happen. Like
Ooh,
I don't remember the details exactly. This has been several years, but I think like somebody in his family died at one point, and
oh,
so things just always got put off. And so one day he was like, "Look, I don't have time for this, but if you want to enter, we could just like if you want to write something else." Well, so I wrote this short film, and this is all going somewhere, I swear.
yeah,
That's called "This Stays with the House."
yeah.
And This Stays with the House is really based on my house.
Oh,
When we moved in here, in like you come in the front door and there's a closet to your left. And in that closet, there's a man's three-piece suit with a piece of painter tape on it where someone scribbled, "This came with the house, it can stay here." And I have lived here for 13 years and I've never touched this thing. I will not touch this thing. I don't let people who come over touch it. I'm like, I'm not even superstitious, but don't push it. Just
yeah.
it's no reason to try.
Wow.
And so I had been telling him the story about that. And then he's like, "That's it. That's a one location short film. That's easy." And we went on and won, I don't know, something like 6 awards that night at the Mall of America Film Fest thing. And the one I care about was audience choice. We won
Yeah.
audience choice.
Nice.
Anytime you win audience choice, that's the one you got to push because that's the one that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. That sounds absolutely amazing, and it's also autobiographical.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty crazy.
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah, James, we've just got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, but can you tell the people out there, where they can go to, purchase your books and your stories?
Yeah, sure. If you just go to jamessabata.com, pretty easy. Or just look up James Sabata on Amazon. They will definitely be there. Those are the easiest ways. Any convention I'm at is good. Um, yeah, that's basically it. Most of my stuff is at jamessabata.com, or our podcast is thenecronoma.com, which
Yeah,
was a great idea in writing and not so much saying it out loud for
yeah.
4 years now.
I think I fucked that up. Early on when I
Nobody,
introduced. Yeah, yeah,
you put the though. Most people just put www.necronoma.com, and that goes to this whole different website. But the guy who owns it doesn't use it. So I tried at one point to buy it from him just so
yeah.
that it would, wouldn't sell it to me.
No, yeah.
So I don't know what they're doing with it. It's probably very dangerous and you'll be sucked into your screen or something.
Well, yeah. At least, right? At least there's some level of interaction, and then you find yourself in this. Oh, it's a real life role playing game.
Yep.
Great. Yeah. Suddenly it turns into Saw.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope not. That never ends well, and it's the writing can be convoluted. Oh, James, it was an absolute pleasure, having you on the show and learning more about you and your work and everything that you do. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you for being so generous with your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to come to the con in September. It's going to be awesome. So
Yes, it will. It'll be great to see you there. It'll be a lot more fun to have you do a panel where you get to pass judgment on the audience.
excellent.
Yeah. Will you, have sex or marry Frankenstein's monster?
Oh, so the answer to that, if you're ever asked, just definitely have sex with him because he can change out his body parts, and you can see how that could work out. So,
wow, yeah, I hear Velcro is very versatile.
oh my, you win this round.
Oh, I was just trying to support you, buddy. I wasn't trying to one up you. Oh God. Okay, we're getting dirty. I love it. James, I can't wait to meet you in person. But it was great chatting with you digitally. Hang out for a few minutes while we sign off. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And again, thanks so much for being so generous with your time and teaching us so much of what James Sabata does.
Thank you.
And to everybody that tuned in, thanks so much for tuning in and joining us this week. And of course, to our sponsors, to Mutiny Information Cafe. If you're going to start a revolution, make sure you're caffeinated. And of course, our friends at Hellfire Entertainment. Thanks for rebroadcasting us on your social media. And to Groovy TV. And of course, to Alien Donut Films and Angela Joseph Productions, to Bill and Angela over there. And to my producers, Lily Fisher and Amanda Armstrong and Stefan Santa Cruz, thanks for putting up with my shit. And to everybody out there, hey, have a good night. Look out for each other, help each other out during tough times, and stay spooky. Until next time, take it easy, everybody.